Immigration, culture shock, just surprise of things being different in a place in which you arrive from the place you used to be. And a lot of it is good. A lot of it is actually quite funny. For myself, I think it was the cereals or the presence of multiple different types of cereals in a supermarket that has thrown me off. Well, that and also access to bananas, right? Like I really love them. And so I ate them until I got sick. Bananas and cereals, I guess, all those different formats. Because when I was growing up, where I was growing up, we had like corn puffs, right? Like, and it was sweetened and non-sweetened, and that's about it. And then you enter into a supermarket and you see like a million different cereals, and you're like, wow, that it's possible. There's this, and I don't want to talk about cereal really, and I want to talk about a different kind of a culture shock and realization of how people view things. And here I want to specifically talk about the notion of pimp glorification. That's one of the things that after many decades of residing here, I still cannot comprehend. I do not understand how it's possible that there is a glorification of a culture, specifically pimp culture. And one could say, well, because you don't understand the layers of what takes place in order for somebody to be recognized or to find themselves within that particular hierarchy. No, criminal world existed and will exist probably forever, and certainly the notion of prostitution is nothing new. But here I don't want to talk about prostitution and certainly sex work. What I want to talk about is individuals who engage in actual exploitation of others. And somehow the society glorifies it and normalizes it. Whether we look at the movies such as, like, I don't know, the Academy winning film Hustle and Flow, or the HBO series, right, like Deuces. It talks about the life of certain individuals, specifically pimps, and it shows them as a way for them to use and abuse other individuals. There is nothing positive about it. It cannot be positive, and this isn't about talking, well, that's the life, and in that life you can be a good, Romeo pimp or a gorilla pimp or whatever you have to be, and that's going to be the determining factor. The bottom line is, which is you as an individual who engages in that uses other people, which means I don't care which socioeconomic background you came from, and I don't care what upbringing that pushed you into that world. You have taken upon yourself the willful desire to use and abuse and coerce and sell other people. And if you find that to be just the subsequent choice of life that you have to do, that does not give you the level of equal sympathy or empathy towards an individual who has been pushed into that lifestyle. In other words, the actual prostitutes. As a matter of fact, there's many facts and statistics about prostitution that is challenged. What age people get into, what age people want to get out, etc. and etc. But one statistic that is not contested, which is roughly between 80 to 92% of women specifically who are in that field or in that industry want to be not related with that industry, right? Like, so this is not talking about the prostitution. This is talking about how is it that we take the act of those individuals, pimps, who sell and abuse and hurt women, and we glorified their behavior. What is wrong with the society that looks at the person who takes other individuals and vulnerable individuals and puts them to literal grinder? And we're supposed to look at that and be able to say that that's okay, up and including the famous people who, I don't know, glorified that behavior and or are able to rationalize it, which puts both those who market and sell people on the same level as the victims who are used and abused by the system. Certainly there is a larger institutional problem. Certainly there is an incredible societal problem, which when we can talk about prostitution and how, if we take the New Zealand example of their legalization, leading in 5 years elimination of the pimp culture. Why? Because they're not good things. If they were good things, if they were necessary things, if they were decent or even in any way, shape, or form necessary elements, then they would be continuous, but they're not, because they are the bottom of the feeding pole. And in anywhere in the world, people who sell other people are not considered to be either admirable or worthy of emulation. Yet here we do. And we do it because they have access to something that, some kind of a power over mostly women, some kind of a power over flashy identities, and all of that is done at the price of human beings. I think we need to take a very long and very serious look at ourselves and say, you know what, glorification can be done for many things, but pimp culture, the glorification needs to stop. It needs to stop right now, both in common usage and certainly in popular culture. We need to realize that those entities who are glorified as such are not good, and they are not ought to be presented as such, because no matter how hard your life is, you know whose life is hard? The prostitute's life is hard, who is forced to engage into that lifestyle, or chooses to engage into that lifestyle. But nobody chooses to engage in a lifestyle where they get abused and violated and hurt. And certainly those who do that and profit of the suffering of the other individuals should not and are not worthy of any kind of praise. And of course, somebody or some one of them can say, well, the conditions of people could be worse. Well, that just makes you benign master, and masters are not good.